I'm going to make a leather grip for the bow, and this is some of my leather. That's off an old sofa I saw down the being thrown away at the council tip. I think that's off some leather handbag or something. That's lovely, soft, thin. But something a lot of people don't realise is leather has a grain. So if you stretch it one way, see that's not moving much. Stretch it the other way, much more stretchy. So if I was going to use that, I'd have it on the bow that way, so that it would stretch nicely and conform to the grip. But what I'm going to use is this. It's off an old motorcycle jacket that one of my mates gave me, and yeah, that's the stretchy side. So I'll lay it out on there. What I've got is a cardboard template that I've used before. I mean, this might not be the right size for that bow, but it will just give me an idea. You can see I've allowed a border to fold over, and it's slightly bowed to allow for the bulging of grip. Let's just see if that will fit around the grip, give me an idea. Well, it's a bit long and it's not big enough, but other than that it's perfect. So what I'll do is I'll use this as a guide to cut out a paper template. Paper a bit shorter, so we'll guess at that, a bit wider. Just trying to get it rough. Once it's roughly right, you can fold it in half and get it, trim both sides together to get it symmetrical. Not that it matters that much because the leather's got some flex in it. There, that's too big. You want a bit of a gap because as you stitch it, you want it to get some tension in and close the gap. So we'll look about right there. So probably something like that. There, that's not bad. I could do a little bit more gap there to close up. That's not bad. So if we fold that in half, trim the two sides simultaneously, that will make it even more symmetrical. And there we are, a relatively even gap. And to cut it out, it's handy to have a bit of old MDF or something that you can really lean into and cut. You can just use, you know, a craft knife, Stanley knife. I've got one of these that my son bought me. I think I'll pencil it first. It's a lovely tool this, you can really put some weight down. Back on, there we go. Right, so there we are. Now for the fold over, if you just fold it and glue it, it's all right, but you get a bit of a sharp edge. It's nice to just skive off this edge a little bit. Now there's various ways to do it. You can get a craft knife and sort of do it like this, but you want to be overhanging the edge of a bench so you can get your blade at a nice angle and just shave away the edge like that, or with something like this, or you can just rub it on the edge of a belt sander. Yeah, of course, health and safety and all that, every man's his own safety officer. I wasn't pressing hard, I'm just, just feeling the leather down onto the belt, and that belt's had a bit of wear on it, so it's not too vicious. I get the old Yoo-hoo glue and a brick. Very reliable, the brick. Actually, I usually use, I've got a little anvil, a 14 pound anvil that I normally use, but that's not here, it's indoors. Spread that liberally about. Give it a nice roll over. If it doesn't want to stay down, you just open it up and give the glue 30 seconds to get a bit tacky. Stick it down like that. And there we go. Leave the brick on it. I'll do it this way so you can see. Just lie the brick on it. But I might just put something under the back edge so that the brick's mostly pressing right on the edge where it's folded over. Just stick something there, go away and have a nice cup of tea. Right, I've got my rolled edges glued up. What I like to do is to mark where the holes are going to be. It's a bit long-winded, but it works well. What I do is I punch them out with this is a masonry nail, which is hardened steel. It's very hard steel, and I'll just ground it using a little grind wheel. So a little grind wheel in the electric drill, and I'll just ground it to a small diameter, ground the point off nice and clean, so that will punch through the leather, and I punch it onto a block of oak or just wood or whatever, and it gives you a clean hole. So it's more like lacing up a boot rather than trying to push a needle through the leather. It actually makes a clean hole. But what I do is I mark out I mark exactly 5mm steps, which I think is a nice compromise. And if you prefer imperial, it'd probably be about 1/4 inch or so, but 5mm is a good, I think it's a nice compromise. And the first stitch will go through the folded, the double layer. I could probably just punch it straight through without marking, but I quite like to mark it first. When I did the video, I messed up and forgot to video punching the holes in the leather, so I'll show it now. There's the punch. I just put the leather onto a bit of oak in this case. Nice sharp tap. And you can see it punches. Punches nice clean holes that you can see through. Right, before I actually stitch it up, what I do is I make sure the back of the bow is roughed up. Put a bit of Yoo-hoo glue on there. and just stick the leather in position. Now you can see it looks like I've got much too big a gap, but if I just pull the leather, because of all the stretch, you can see I can close that gap up to nothing, so that will work nicely. See, I can close the gap, but that's got it lined up straight at either end. So I can just leave that for the glue to dry and then get down to the business of stitching it up. This might be a bit ungainly doing this. I'd normally do it on my lap, but I'll try and show you how I do it. We have a length of thread with a needle on each end. This is braided nylon, which is quite good because it's got a little bit of stretch in it. You can use anything you like, linen, and you can have a contrasting colour or a matching colour, so this is black. What I normally do, I'll start off, you can see having nice punched holes, the needle goes through fairly easily. I'll start off going through effectively twice. So you can see I've gone through twice there, which gives me a good solid foundation. And there you can see as I pull it tight, I've closed up that gap nicely. And because I've gone round twice, it's good and solid with a good grip. Now I'll go in a crisscross pattern, and it's very easy to mess up. It's a good thing to do is practice on a shoelace or something. So what I'll do is I'll go under there, this one will go over the top, and that's my first crossover. Let's just pull that tight, and you'll see the gaps opening up, so you have to try and keep the tension going as you work your way along. So you do a few stitches and pull it tight. Now this one's going to come up there. And this one's going to come up there. I want to cross over the same order as I did last time, so right over left first, then left over right. So over we go, and again I'm keeping on top of the leather. It's easy to make a mistake, but just go back and put it right to try and keep everything the same, and it just ends up looking so much nicer. So here I've got that one over the top, so this one's going over the top. And we pull them tight. Oh dear, a bit of a gap. Never mind, just get some tension. Just massage the leather a bit. So you see it's closing up. Right, when I get to this point, what I do is I just lay a loop of thread down there so that that will be underneath the grip. So when I finish my loose ends of thread, I can tuck through this loop and then pull it out, and it tucks them right up under the leather, gets them out of the way so it's nice and tidy. Else you end up with a little knot or dangles of thread, which is fine. I mean, some people turn it into a decorative feature by, you know, putting a bead on it or what have you. But I like to just keep it looking totally clean. Now we're getting close now. Just need to tighten up this stitching a bit more. You'll see what I mean about that. The ends and the thread in a minute when we get to the very end. Now we're getting towards the last knockings. The same as where I started off. I went through the holes twice. I'll do the same here. Through there. Let's just get all my tension in. pull good and tight. Tie it off in a knot. Cut off my tails and then put this loop over the tails like that and pull there, and that tucks them up inside. And there you go, finished grip. Well, that looks a bit scruffy at the minute, but I'll just give that a little buff with a doodah, bit of black boot polish, and that looks sweet as a nut. There you go, that's finished it off, just buffed it up with a bit of black boot polish. See, it looks rather handsome.